New at 6 tonight, the story of what might have been. It's been 55 years since Piedmont Airlines Flight 349 crashed into a mountain outside of CROSSROADS, killing 26 of the 27 people on board. Remarkably, these many years later, large pieces of the wreckage remain on the mountain. And tonight in Virginia CROSSROADS, a story from that crash that's never been told. It's not easy to get to the site where Piedmont Flight 349 crashed on a foggy night on October 30th of 1959. Local landowner Ballman Abbott led us via four-wheel drive to a place where we could hike down to the site from the top of Buck's Elbow Mountain.
This is just the last time I hiked down to the crash. I just made some notes.
Though shorter than the 6-mile trek from the bottom of the mountain, the terrain is steep and strewn with loose rock. There is no trail.
But I'm thinking it's down in this area.
With Ballman's help, we pick our way to the wreckage. Our group includes members of the CROSSROADS Rescue Squad who've never been to the crash site, and one man with a special reason to be here.
The very first thing you think of is what could have been.
Chuck McFarland's father had hoped to be on Flight 349, but he was late to the airport.
A couple weeks after the incident, we were at home, and he simply said quietly, I was supposed to be on that plane, but I was late to the airport.
McFarland didn't know for 50 years that anything was left at the crash site, but thanks to the internet, he learned there was plenty to see, and he had to see it.
As soon as I learned that, I knew I had to make it here.
Remarkably, because of the flight's lone survivor, Phil Bradley, we know a lot about the final moments of the doomed flight. We know that Bradley himself was stuck in the woods, still strapped to his airplane seat for nearly 3 days, while authorities searched for the missing DC-3. The biggest piece of the wreckage is on the hillside right behind me, but if you walk around in the woods, even 55 years later, you can still find pieces that are this side, just scattered here and among the leaves. And we can't really imagine what it must have been like for Phil Bradley when he woke up still strapped to his airplane seat to look around and see the bodies of the passengers who didn't survive scattered all around him here in these same woods. It was awful. Jesse SEALE doesn't have to imagine it. At the time, he was 14 and a local, and he arrived at the scene about the same time as rescuers.
Some of the people were still in their seatbelts to some degree. Not many in the plane itself. It just kind of disintegrated there, you know.
When you arrived there, what did the scene look like?
Like something you've seen in the movies.
And then there's Alvin Toms, who helped carry the dead out on stretchers and spent the first night in the woods protecting the wreckage from would-be human scavengers. He told me how difficult it was to carry the human remains up that steep slope that we ourselves had just navigated. What was it like to carry those stretchers up the side of that mountain?
You'd go about 10 steps and somebody else would have to relieve you.
Today, the site remains a difficult-to-reach curiosity. Pieces of metal, an old beer can, and unknown plane parts scattered in the woods, for all except Chuck McFarland, whose father, had he made the plane, likely would have lost his life here on Buck's Elbow Mountain.
And I'm going to try to take as small a piece of aluminum as I can. And I want to poke that little piece into the ground next to their gravesite.
A long hike and a tiny bit of closure for a man whose own life might have been so very different. Many of the people on that plane had ties to this area as it was headed to Charlottesville and Lynchburg from Washington. The cause of that plane crash is in dispute to this very day.